Good morning. Vincent, nice to see you. Martha, how are you?
Hey, Chirag.
So before we get started, does anyone have any coaching wins they want to share with the group to get started?
I can share one.
Yes, who's that?
Sarai.
Hello.
Hi.
So what you got?
Hello.
So, hi. So my team lead, she does a separate coaching. Long story short, she had lost two listings that she had. And I told her, I can create a Hail Mary for you. But I'm going to be using Chirag's stuff for the Hail Mary. So it's might be different than what you're used to. And she's like, at this point, it's two houses and I really need to get them back. So I created a value proposition of what we would do for 6 months. So on your platform, I looked up the calendar of how
Yep.
it would be
Marketing
scheduled,
calendar.
the marketing calendar. I tailored it to these two specific properties and we won the listings back. But it took them 2 weeks to make the decision. But they said, yeah, based on the calendar and everything and your communication, we also did the communication plan. They went ahead and signed up again.
Incredible. So look, what I want all of you to take away is we all have the same resources, right? Like, real estate can be defined as a business is what I would call more of the same, but it's these little, and congratulations, right? It's these little things that make a huge difference, right? So a friend of mine gave me this, like I'll never pass something on that's not my own, but he's like, based on the way you train and what you do, he's like, you really should use this statement. And I was like, well, what's the statement? Feeling is the new luxury, right? So it's like, and I believe that down to my core, right? Like our ability, if you look at what you did, she personalized it. So they felt like, okay, they understand me and they have a plan, right? You look at all those Med C stories, everyone's like, oh my God, it's like about me, right? And so as I was making this presentation for us today, I had such like a light bulb moment. Can I share that with all of you before we actually get into like our conversation for the day? And if anyone else has a win, just put win in the chat and our team will reach out to you to capture this. And now we have a great thing that we could market Sarai to 16,000 other agents, along with Margie and the couple other ones that we've gotten as well. So keep them coming. So we talked yesterday in the seller track about how the home tour is where listings are won and lost, right? And what I realized today, it was like my epiphany aha moment is the needs analysis that we're going to talk about today in a buyer consultation is where a buyer consultation is won or lost. Did anyone ever think about it that way? 150%, right? Cherish, you're in a new location. So it's something that's like really simple, right? So I was on a coaching call yesterday with a team that I work with individually. And so, we were talking about pre-qualifying and they kind of went through the stuff. I'm like, well, this sounds very like invasive, I would say would be the word. Like it's an interrogation. Tonality is like 80%. Like what percent of communication is tonality? 80?
Sound?
Yeah, like sound. And how much are the actual words?
Words is 7 to 10.
So your sound tonality is 25 to 30 and the actual words are 7, right? So depending on the way you ask, have you been pre-qualified? Like it could trigger a response. And then I went and did the Med C and I asked him like, well, what's the difference? Well, I found very personalized, right? Remember, no one will remember what you said. No one will remember what you did, but they'll always remember how you made them feel. And so if someone can go and we create a space and a container where people could share their needs, wants, desires, fears, goals, expectations, you win. All right, now let me show you exactly how we're going to do this today. There's this really cool new button in Zoom that says show meeting. So I can like still see all of you, which is where my inspiration comes from, as opposed to like that little screen of like 3 people. So let's talk about conducting effective buyer consultations, right? Oops. So let's go through today's roadmap. We're going to go about how do you start the conversation, preparing your collections, like what do you need to do in advance, like a very tactical process. What is even the purpose of a needs analysis, right? How do we create the gap, fill the gap, conducting an effective needs analysis. By the way, we made a new resource for you today. We made an insane buyer's questionnaire, right? So hit yes if you want like a really good buyer's questionnaire, right? Like, and this has all of our stuff integrated into it. And we'll walk you through how to use it. And yes, you're going to have to learn how to put it into a Google form. And I'm going to tell you this in advance to save our team. No, we do not offer support on Google Forms and how that works and everything else. I don't even know how it works, right? So like I have team members that do it. So reach out to your AEM or chat GBT or some form of a training to do it. But these are basic things that you're going to have to know how to do. And then the last one is applied learnings, right? Like what you are going to have to do to implement what you've learned. Who here kind of gets the theme that like going through this over and over again is where the mastery becomes, right? Look, even in making this stuff, and I've done this for 17,000 plus hours, right? I'm still learning new things about this. It's like if you ever watched the TV show Lost, and then you go back and watch it again, you see a whole bunch of different new things, right? I'm watching a show with my daughter now that I watched a long time ago, Once Upon a Time, and now I'm noticing all these different new things, right? So let's hop into this. How do we start the conversation, right? Is number one, I don't know why some of these things are here. Recap or have the med see, right? Like you're going to either recap it if you could pre-qualify them before, which is ideal. And if not, that's how the conversation is going to start, right? Can I ask you a few really important questions today, Margie, so that we could focus our time solely talking about what's most important to you? That's a script. Then ask the magic question. What do you envision an agent doing for you that you feel, feelings are subjective, that you can't do yourself? What do you envision an agent doing for you that you feel you can't do on your own? Right? That is creating a gap, essentially, right? And that's the script for that. And then you transition to the needs analysis. Remember, how it starts is how it goes. You do not want to start this conversation or consultation about anything besides the person. Think about it. What does a doctor do when they go for a surgery? They pre-qualify you. They ask you about all your medical conditions, right? When you go to a dentist, don't you have to fill out all those forms? Think about it. It's the same thing they do everywhere. You go to an attorney, they ask you all of these different questions, right? So my question to you is, if you went to a doctor that didn't pre-qualify you, would you want to do surgery or any kind of treatment with them? Absolutely not. Like, you know nothing about me. Well, we do that because we don't have a sales process, right? So let's go about preparing your collections, right? You'll see this in the applied learnings. You just need one really good collections, right? So what you're looking for is a collection where it shows your unique ability to create personalized experiences. What does that mean, right? So if I want a backyard that feels like a resort, that has trees, that doesn't have neighbors near me, that's, you know, within 10 minutes of my office and blah, 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 right? When you see those kinds of comments that would require somebody to A, really know a person, B, really know the market, and C, synthesize that into something a buyer can understand, you're being of value. You're not showing your value, right? Like they're internalizing like, wow, like I know what they can do for me, right? This will also show the client what I call the ownership experience. The ownership experience is seeing and feeling exactly what it would be like to work with your product and service before they even hire you. So mentally in their mind, subconsciously, they're like, oh yeah, when I work with Chirag, like he's going to do this, and this is going to be so great. I don't have to look online. Like you're actually using behavioral psychology and words and personalized experiences to create the outcome that someone's actually looking for. And then the other one is be prepared to highlight how many properties you canceled out. Hit yes if you cancel a lot of properties out in collections, right? Like you literally delete them, you don't put them in the collection so that the client doesn't ever see them, right? I don't know why more people, like I learned this from Kate Bauer. She uses this. This is her strategy. She's like, I always show them all the ones I didn't go in. Like, look, here's 100 properties my client never saw. They never had to waste time on because it does not work for them. Right. And so in there, they're like, okay, great. Like they create personalized experiences. I know what this is going to be like for me and I want it. And they also help me save time. And did you have to ever say that, well, we handpick properties and we make sure to put in these comments in our collections and we make sure not to, you don't have to say it. You don't have to say anything. And actually the least you say and the more they internalize, the more value they assign to what you do. Does that make sense to everybody? Is this a different twist on collections? Remember, we all have the same tools, right? Some people, like all of you, will just know how to talk about them and use them better than everybody else, right? Communication without context is miscommunication. So what is a needs analysis? Does anyone know? Would anyone like to share? One person? Leslie, my one brave volunteer.
It's an assessment of what the buyer's looking for, if they are able to afford and get what they're looking for, how ready they are, how serious they are, and what their biggest concerns are.
Got it. So essentially, a needs analysis is your ability to hyper personalize and understand what somebody wants in relation to what we call, this is a Chirag statement, their functional flow, right? So remember I told you that I realized my epiphany was this is where buyers are won or lost. So if you start off by saying, so like, how many bedrooms do you need? How many bathrooms do you want? How many must you have? How many would you like? What neighborhoods do you want to be in? Like, these are such generic questions. They're like, why the hell am I here? Like they could go put all this stuff in, you know? Diana, all of those prompts of motivation while they're moving, all of that stuff's in their Med C. Remember, by the time you've got here, you know their motivations, what they're most excited about happening directly as a result of their move, what their expectations are, what their disappointments are, what their concerns are, and what they envision from an agent. You have all your ammunition to do this in a very personalized method, right? So what you don't want to do is get into all those boring details. One, you can do it in a buyer questionnaire. Number two, that's not what they're paying you for, right? So what we always say is, and you can write this down, you know, is a home is where you build memories. A community is where your life happens. We want to show you how to have your perfect lifestyle in Westport, Connecticut, right? So the whole point of the needs analysis is understanding how people want to live inside of a house and outside of a house. And encompassed in that conversation, everything else comes up. And honestly, for the sake of a buyer consultation, I don't really care how many bedrooms and bathrooms they want. Because the purpose of this is to understand them, demonstrate my value, so that we can build a connection, right? If they don't have any connection to me, they don't want to sign my consultation agreement. They don't want to sign my compensation agreement. They don't want to pay me the money that I deserve. Why am I going to go through all this information with them? So remember, nobody's going to want the cow if you give the milk away for free, right? We all have to separate paid and unpaid work. Do not make a single collection for anybody that hasn't paid you money or signed, like paid you money means I signed a contract, right? You're positioning your unique value. Like you're going to win in this part. And if you do this right, everything else is like a downward slide. It's an easy segue to solve the client's unique challenges. It dives right into their deepest. Wow, my dyslexia is great today. Deepest wants, desires, and goals. And it is a very personalized luxury experience. That is the purpose of this, right? So I remember when we did free coaching month. Anyone here that was on free coaching month, the buyer consultation one? Remember when Kate went through this at the end of the needs analysis? It was so slick. In my mind, even though her and I have had this conversation, it was my real scenario like 100 different times, right? Because we're also really good friends. When she started tying it all together, I was like, I need her, right? I'm like, this is really helpful. But she never said anything. This is where the magic is. You're going to stop talking at people and you're going to understand how to provide luxury experiences, because this is where all the money is. There's no way anyone could tell me with a straight face that an agent that knows how to really curate an experience and really understand a person. Think about it. Hit yes if you've had a Med C win in the last 3 weeks. Well, one, I need to communicate better with you guys. I'm getting you to share your success stories. So Susan, these are another group of people to reach out to. You know why it works so well? Because it's very personalized and it's not about you and what you're going to do and everything else. It's just about them, right? So let's talk about creating the gap. That's highlighting the client's mind. There's a gap from what they can do on their own and what they want, right? So we need to create a gap. And then we need to fill the gap, right? So in my mind, if I'm a buyer and now all of a sudden I've seen the collection, it's very personalized, it speaks to like me and what I want, all this other stuff. You've created that gap without saying, well, you can't, you know, if you search on your own, like you should never say that. That's not from a position of authority and strength. And I'm not trying to mock anybody in saying this, right? Because like what I will transparently say is every single thing I'm like, oh, don't say this like this. I've done this 100 times myself, right? Like when I was an agent too, I can give you, when we all sit in person, I'm going to make a slide when you all come to visit. The 10 stupidest things I did as an agent, just so you realize that nobody's omitted of these experiences. Nobody's perfect. We all make mistakes, but like I tell my kids, making mistakes is the only way to grow. So we're going to fill that gap without ever having to say so directly. Does that make sense? You solve problems for profit, but if they don't realize there's a problem, a gap, or anything else like that, they're gonna be like, why am I paying all this money? And while we're talking about paying this, can we all agree that the amount of money that someone has to sign in a compensation agreement is a lot? Yes? It's a lot of money. If you go to the Four Seasons for 7 nights and spend $7,000, what do you expect from them? And then can you look at the mirror and say that you provide a better service in the Four Seasons, which generally costs at minimum half of what we all charge people? This is why learning this one system is so crucial to your survival in this business. Because in my mind, you guys are all going to be in the luxury experience business and creating that feeling for people. Because you're going to know how to do this so well because you've done it over and over and over again. And everything that we talk about is all about the client. Have you noticed that? It's all about you, right? The client. That's what the whole thing should be. And the more you can do this, the more referrals you'll get, the more commissions you'll get, the more higher commissions you'll earn. These are all the distinct benefits. All right, so like now let's go into weeds. Hold on. My presentation just died. Please hold. We are currently experiencing technical difficulties. If not, I can do the rest of this by memory. So, but I know everyone likes the slides. All right, so let's go into conducting the actual needs analysis, right? And how we have this conversation. So, I would go back and I would frame the conversation, right? And I would say, Susan, I know you mentioned like, this is what made this the right time to make a move. And this is what you're most excited about happening, right? So this portion is called the needs analysis, right? So has anyone taken the time to explain to you or help understand what your functional flow is? They can be like, huh? Say functional flow, like, well, what? No, and this in sales is what we call like a pattern interrupt, right? Like we're interrupting the pattern. It's the last thing they expect to hear, right? All right, hold on. We're back online here. 1 second. Okay. Sorry about that. All right. So that's how we frame the conversation. So they're going to say, what is functional flow? Be like, for us, it's really important that we achieve this concept together. Can I share with you what it is? They're going to say, yeah. We're going to say one of the biggest mistakes that we see people buying a house is they're over focused on bedrooms, bathrooms, amenities, updates, and neighborhood, which ends up leading to people fitting their life and their lifestyle into the home because no one took the time to understand their functional flow, to understand how a home fits into their lifestyle. So is it all right if I ask you some questions to really understand what that is? And in simple terms, it means we want to understand how you live inside of your house, outside of your house, right? What's it like for you during the week? What's it like on evenings, weekends, holidays? What rooms are most important to you? What type of experiences you want to have in there? Those are the kinds of things we want to understand so that we can help you find the ideal lifestyle in Westport that fits into the right home for you. Yes or no, does that start the conversation off very, very different? No one is doing this because this is like the weird stuff I come up with at night, right? Like this is like when I'm sitting there thinking, I'm like, oh, wow, functional flow. Like this is like really important, right? So then I would ask them like, when you're, and this is where you can really personalize this. So I'll give you kind of like a framework to follow. So I would ask them like, when you think about a home, I would start wide. Like what kind of experiences are you looking to have in a new home that you can't currently have in the one that you have? Right? Like great question, right? Again, the pleasure point, they're going to talk about it. What rooms are most important to you? Why are they most important to you? What kind of experiences you're looking to have there? Like, what's it like every day in your house during the week, right? Like, how many people get ready in the morning? Like one of the things that I used to do as an agent, because most of my clients are coming from the city and like I was an early Zillow adopter, I would ask them like, when you're in the city, right? And you're in a little like 1 to 2 bedroom apartment that's like 800 square feet. When you see a 3-bed, 1.5 bath house that's like 1,800 square feet, you're like jackpot. But then I'm like, wait, there's 2 adults and 2 kids. How many people need to take it? What time do you all need to be out of the house? They would tell me the time. Great. How many people need to be ready by 8:15 in the morning? 4. So how are 4 people going to take a shower? What time would you have to wake up? Like, no, you shouldn't buy this house. You need 2 full bathrooms. That's functional flow, right? So you're getting into there. Oh, how many people, raise your hand and say, oh, I want to entertain? Right? You hear it all the time. Great. Like, what does that look like? Do you entertain on weekends? Is it just holidays? Like, how do you in your mind envision people gathering? Is it outside? When you think about the living space, are there people inside? Is everyone outside? How does the food get brought to the kitchen? Do you want a walled off dining room or an open space? Now think about this. Remember how we talked about the home story yesterday? And how valuable that is for anyone that was on that session. We talked about how to capture someone's home story, right? I'm realizing I just had a void in my memory telling you guys only to go to not the buyer or seller track, right? But in telling your home story, we're asking like, what was your favorite memory? What was your favorite room? What was your favorite experience there? The seller's telling their story, right? So there's a deep connection. Now, if you're getting all of this stuff from the buyer, right? They're going to start telling you all kinds of crazy things. So when they have a list like this and they have a budget like this, you've already filtered them out in your mind. You don't even have to get into price point and all that stuff because there is a financial analysis that we do later in the consultation after we've built value and trust, right? So at the end of it, you can recap all of this. So I would say, you know, Jeff, if I've heard this correctly, what you and Vince want is blank and blank and blank. And then you get into the community. Do you want to be able to walk places? Like what's it like getting to work every day? Have you factored in time, daycare, school busing? Like, what do you want to know? Like what would make your life the best every morning, because getting out of the morning is challenging, right? Like, how do you want to live in this community? Like, what are restaurants most important to you? Like, what kind of experiences do you want to have? How does parking play into this? There's all these different little nuances that people call life. We all deal with this every single day. How much do you hate going somewhere where there's no parking, right? So I remember having a client one time where they had these elaborate entertaining plans as I dug into this. And I'm like, wait a second, like, you love this house, but we can't buy this house. Why not? Because it's on a double yellow line street. Where are you going to park 20 cars every time you want to have a party every other weekend? Right? Another thing is, if people are talking about all the things that work for them, let me give you this, my caveat emptor and my legal disclaimer. Protect your safety first. I'm not suggesting you do this with strangers and people you don't know, but like, it's really helpful sometimes to see where people are living so they can show you what works and what doesn't work. It is another huge way to get it, especially if they're repeat clients potentially looking around. And then the closing questions, right? So if I shared all this personalized stuff, I would just kind of nicely say, it's like, so, you know, Jeff and Vince, if you're looking around on Zillow or any website, can that tell you like secluded backyard privacy with no neighbors near you with blank and blank and blank? They're going to say no. Can this website share with you blank and blank and blank? You're literally repeating back to them all those really unique things. And the magic in this is all the things they share with you are not search filters online, right? I can't search on Zillow home that has no neighbors near me with all trees and privacy so I could walk around and just be free, right? No, you need a human to do that stuff. So you're closing and you're setting up yourself for success for the rest of the consultation. So a buyer questionnaire. We have a really cool buyer questionnaire. It asks a lot of questions. It collects all the details in one place. I called it, it's the expert positioning, right? As a true expert, you care to ask all these questions. And by the way, when you have all these questions, right, I would mess around with ChatGPT and say, hey, here's everything about my buyers, right? I'm going to put properties in, please personalize comments, and then mess around with this. And then literally you can, in the projects folder, I can make a cherish hope file. And in there, I can also like literally just put property links and it's gonna start spitting stuff out and like, write this in an email, write this so that I could just provide them comments in a property somewhere, right? It's showing that you care, right? And ultimately it set yourself apart from other agents. Like our questionnaire has some stuff, but it's really worded differently. And it has some of like the functional flow, and like framing it is really important, right? And I would say, look, one of the things that's most important in this partnership is that we know as many details about your hopes, your dreams, your desires, your functional flow, your concerns, so that we can personalize every aspect of this experience for you. Personalization is the goal of this. We're not generalists. We offer a personalized luxury service. So what does that mean is we do ask you a lot of questions, right? When you go to a doctor, and this is again framing, you know, you go to a doctor, you have 4 to 6 pages of things to fill out, but it's the only way they can really know you, your health condition, and how to provide the best service. Well, we do the same exact thing for a home. So think of this as like our way of really knowing every intimate detail about you. So guys, like we promised you in the beginning, all the stuff you need is here. So you're going to go into role play with Cherish, right? You can review the Med C Cherish and the magic question, right? I know you're always prepared. Cherish, actually, fun fact, is more of my stuff in 3-ring binders than anybody else. 2, find a collection that you can use all the time that demonstrates the things that we shared. 3, practice a needs analysis conversation, right? Go through this over and over and over and over again. So when you go to Cherish's group, find a role play partner and familiarize yourself with the buyer questionnaire and put it into Google Forms. And role play on Friday. Jesus, Martha, I'm really bad at this. So we have 2 role play sessions, right? And so this week we'll put our recap newsletter out. We're going to send a second newsletter with sign-up links, Laura, on Friday. with just links to the accountability sessions, right? And all the links are in the platform, but we'll put it in an email. Look, the last two things I want to tell you is I beta tested our Chirag AI search yesterday. Holy Jesus. You can save favorites. You can search like in ChatGPT, the little boxes of your popular search. You could search for like, you could type in keys to effective partnership and like, you could get a resource. You could get a template. You could type in and click a button that says video training. And there's well over 500 different things. And we're going to start integrating it into our platform next week. Like it's the coolest thing. Like I've never seen anything like this. Like I was showing this to Rory last night. You could type in, how do I add a buyer to my Compass CRM? And boom, it'll tell you exactly how to do it and a click and a link to the video. So with love in my heart, I love you all. Go to Cherish's accountability group. We are going to ask you to start signing your emails in here because it's the only way for us to provide really great accountability and experience and make sure that you make the most out of the investment made in yourself. So I'll see you all on the other side. Bye, everybody.